Okay, Imogen, Manifesto week, the most exciting week of the political calendar, or at least during a general election campaign. Labour and Keir Starmer were up in Manchester this morning launching the Labour Manifesto. How did it go? Was it a good manifesto from supporters' point of view?
So I think Labour will certainly be really pleased with how the manifesto launch went today. From a supporters' point of view, I think it wasn't a particularly exciting manifesto in that a lot of these policies had been quite heavily pre-briefed. There was nothing particularly unfamiliar in there. But I think we were all expecting that. That's long been signalled as an element of Labour's strategy going into this general election. If I had to pick the most eye-catching element of this manifesto, I think it would be that, you can see that Labour is really squarely committed to positioning itself as the party of business, but also there are some really strong workers' rights commitments in there, like ending fire and rehire, and also ending the use of exploitative zero-hours contracts.
Yeah, it was really interesting here, the commitment that Keir Starmer had to that. But all of this is stuff that we've heard before, isn't it? It sort of felt like it was a very cautious manifesto, and the whole election strategy that Labour have been following for a number of months and even years has been about not risking that poll lead, and it sort of felt a little bit like that was still happening today.
I think that's definitely the case. I think Labour's strategy going into this general election is one of defence, really. What I do think the manifesto did well is I think it did quite well at crafting a narrative and a story for what a Starmer-led Labour government might look like. So as well as those focuses both on business and the private sector and on workers' rights, I think there are a number of really strong retail offers in there to an electorate that's frankly a little bit sick of the state of some of the UK's public services right now. So, everything from fixing potholes to NHS dental appointments to childcare, a lot of retail offers in there, a lot of things that I think will catch the eye of voters.
Yeah, but it was a kind of retail offers that actually gives a little bit of a dividing line, which we've been seeking in this election campaign, which is on tax. So it was really interesting for me to see today the kind of spending commitments that Labour have put in there. It's over £8 billion of extra tax rises that were expected, and that's not going to cover all of the spending commitments that are going to be in the Labour manifesto. So we can probably expect more to come should Labour form the next government. Is that something that Labour have to really worry about?
I think so. I think throughout this campaign, Labour's sort of been playing an extended game of chicken on tax, because ultimately, given the state that public services are in, given what Labour has promised it would want to do in government, inevitably something has to give. And I think the communication strategy they're pursuing is they know something has to give, but they hope it has to give after the general election when they expect they'll be in government.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting how contrasting it was to the Conservative manifesto that we had earlier in the week on Tuesday, where Rishi Sunak came out with this blizzard of policies in the document, which entitled Clear Plan, Bold Action, Secure Future, to try and remind people of that dividing line, that choice. And there were things in there, that the rabbit, of course, being about abolishing national insurance by the end of the Parliament. There were tax cuts for pensioners. There was national service for 18-year-olds, which we'd heard about before. But it sort of doesn't feel like that is actually going to have a real impact on the election campaign. And that despite all of these blizzard of policy announcements, the Conservatives are still 20 points behind in the polls. Reform is doing well. I just don't see that changing.
Do you think there's anything in the Conservative manifesto that will make even a bit of a dent on the giant poll leads that Labour's still continuing to enjoy?
I'm not sure there is. And actually, if you look at some of the polling from the last week or so of what the electorate has actually noticed during the poll lead, during the campaign so far, it's actually been about the D-Day situation, which is obviously a hangover from the gaffe that the Prime Minister made last week. And I think really, when you're looking about the stories of the campaign and what is it that voters are noticing, it's still those issues that Conservatives are really suffering from around their record, effectively, of what the Conservatives have done over the last 14 years in power. And that's really hard for them to get away from. So whilst I think the manifestos have been an interesting week, I'm not sure it's been the most exciting in terms of moving the dynamic and changing the narrative, which has really been set in play for some time now.
I think you're right. And if you were someone looking at this, perhaps a business person looking at this manifestos week, all of the policies coming out, and thinking, how does this impact me? How can I get involved? Where would you go?
Well, come to our website. This is where we have our Sec Newgate election hub. We've got all the detailed analysis of the manifestos. we've got the Road to No.10 document, which you're launching today.
Yes, absolutely. And that includes some blogs and essays from across our business, experts in leadership comms, digital comms, financial markets comms, looking at what the election might mean for you if you're in any of those sectors, and how you can take advantage of the policy environments to achieve your organisation's goals.
Yeah, so head to the Sec Newgate website. There'll be a load more exciting information, analysis coming down the track. So head there, see what is there, and see how the election is going to be affecting the world of business as well as politics over the next few weeks.